بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن أضل أو أضل أو أزل أو أزل أو أظلم أو أظلم أو أجهل أو يجهل علي. So last week we continued with Dear Beloved Son, أيها الولد المحب, by Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, and we got into the section talking about him, explaining that just having knowledge is not sufficient for salvation. And we stopped by saying, he says that, my dear son, أيها الولد, and by extension from that, know that he's addressing everybody. He's not just addressing the men, he's addressing the men and the women. النصيحة سهلة, so advice is easy, counsel is easy, والمشكل قبولها, and that the trouble or the difficulty is actually accepting it. لأنها في مذاق متبعي الهوى مرة, because for those who are following their whims, it's bitter. إذ المناهي محبوبة في قلوبهم, because prohibitions are actually beloved to their hearts. And you'll know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us all with the fitrah, with this natural innate disposition towards that which is pure, that which is good. And what ends up happening for us is that anybody that commits an impermissible action, it never feels great the first time. They don't feel good. They feel something is unsettling. It feels terrible. And then they acquire a taste for it. And then they develop a habit. So anybody that engages in prohibitions, the first time something is off. And they know it innately. They know something they did was not right. And then it becomes beloved. And that's when it becomes problematic to try to get rid of it. Because you as a human being, you're a combination. Human beings are unique because we're not really animals. And we're not really spiritual angel beings. We're this interesting mixture between the two that nobody has ever been able to resolve. It's a mystery. In Surah Al-Isra, the Jews came and asked the beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and they asked him about the soul. What is it? Because look at human beings and look at the rest of the animal world. We share some aspects that looks like clearly we have an animal nature to us, but obviously we're not animals. When was the last time you saw a chimpanzee driving their car on the motorway to go to their office so that they can do their shift, so then they can go to the bank and deposit money, and then they go back home and Netflix with their spouse? That doesn't happen. No matter how intelligent animals are, or crows, you should really look into crows as well. Crows are very fascinating creatures. They have long-term memory. There is a study that was done or there was an interesting finding from University of Washington in Seattle, and the graduate students could no longer go back after they did their study because the crows started to attack them, and the only way they could go back is by putting on masks because the crows recognize them and they'll come back and attack. There was a wife was telling me about a hijabis. There's a place, I think Melbourne or someplace. They can't go there because the crows are attacking the women. Hijabi women. I was like, there was a hijabi that did something. And so the crows are just recognizing that, and they're just coming after these women when they see them. So animals have these interesting kind of tidbits of like intelligence that you see, but it's not like human intelligence. They don't work in the abstract realm. So for us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in this kind of in-between, and that's what Ali Izzat Bigovich in Islam Between East and West, he says the human beings are like a window into the divine. We are an intersection between the physical and the metaphysical. And so we see things and we have access to the realm in ways that nothing else has it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with this fitrah, and nothing ever sits well with us when we transgress the limits. But you can develop a habit. And Imam al-Ghazali says, وَعَلَى الْخُصُوصِ لِمَنْ كَانَ طَالِبَ الْعِلْمِ الرَّسْمِيِّ مُشْتَغِلٌ فِي فَصْلِ النَّفْسِ وَمَنَاقِبِ الدُّنْيا فإنه يحسب أن العلم المجرد له سيكون نجاته وخلاصه فيه وإنه مستغني عن العمل. And that's where we stopped. And he talks about the seeker of knowledge, and there is a pitfall in seeking knowledge, in that when you're studying these texts and you come and you sit in these gatherings, and mashallah, you came, you did dhikr, you did daratib, you did burda, you studied a little bit of what Imam Ghazali said, you feel like I have done something. Well, that's the first step. I mean, if you looked into what we recited in the burda today, in the lines that we recited was, I seek refuge in attributing action to knowledge, in having knowledge without action, because in doing so, it's like attributing progeny to someone who is infertile. That's the line that was Imam al-Busayri's put in the burda. And so, whenever you have knowledge, you have to go out and you have to figure out, okay, what does this do? First, it becomes an ilm, it's knowledge. Now I have to translate it into amal. And that amal, this action, could be an action of the heart, it could be, and actions of the heart have to be somehow confirmed with the actions of the limbs. And so the pitfall for seeking knowledge is that you have this kind of spiritual elation, you feel good, you feel really nice, you feel heightened spiritually, you feel like I'm doing something good, and it is good. I mean, you come in these gatherings, and the beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that these gatherings, حفتهم الملائكة, this is a gathering where the angels are coming through. And that's part of why you feel this elated feeling. But it is not sufficient for you to come here and to just do this. You have to go and actually act this out and do this and have it have an impact in your life in some sort of way. And in fact, this knowledge can become a proof against you, because now you don't have an excuse. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect. The beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that أَوْغِلُوا فِي هَذَا الدِّينِ بِرِفْقٍ, delve into this religion gently. And that refers to anybody. It refers to the convert who's just coming into this religion. It also refers to the Muslim who's been wayward all of their life and they're coming back into it. Delve into it gently. Just get your feet wet. Just get started. Slowly, slowly, you will get comfortable, and then you will find yourself, subhanAllah, for some people they will start racing afterwards and they won't get tired. This is where they find their peace. But you have to delve into it gently. And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us also that لَا يُشَادَّ الدِّينَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا غَلَبَهُ. Nobody is going to take this religion with kind of zealotry, with strength like that, except they will be overcome by it. No matter what you think you're doing, there's always more to do. And eventually it will overcome you and overwhelm you. And then you'll get burnt out. And then you won't want to do anything. So you have to take it easy on yourself. Add to it something else. Don't fall into the pitfall or the trapping. And I've mentioned this before, but it's just as a reminder. فَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind, for the reminder is beneficial for the believers. Whatever you do for yourself, don't expect others around you to do the same thing. You might be at one level, one stage. Don't go around in your house expecting everyone to do exactly what you're doing. Let's say that you're someone who wants to get up late at night. MashaAllah, may Allah grant you strength and give you success and facilitation in doing that. Well, don't expect your spouse to get up with you and pray with you. Don't make it an expectation. You want to fast Mondays and Thursdays and all that? MashaAllah, have at it. Enjoy yourself. Don't expect your spouse to do exactly the same thing that you're doing. Some people, it's a subtle thing, because what they're doing is they're weak, and so they're trying to gain strength by imposing it on other people around them. So they're trying to control their environment in a way so that they can make sure that everybody's doing what I'm doing, because I can't do it myself. You know what? You can ask your people to help you out to do these things, but don't impose your way on everyone else around you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created people with different temperaments. Like the Imam that came to Imam Malik, and he said to him, because he looked at him, and Imam Malik, after years of poverty and selling literally the roof of his house, the ceiling was made out of wood planks, he sold those in seeking knowledge. But then when he became the great Imam Malik, he was living in luxury. So he liked to wear really nice turbans, really nice hats, really nice robes, things like that, colorful. He was a beautiful man too, tall, blonde, blue-eyed, so he really took care of himself. And the man came to him and was like, Imam Malik, come on, be a zahid. You're a great Imam Malik. Be like ascetic. You shouldn't be like this. You should fast, you should do this. He just said to him, look man, Jazakumullah khairan for the advice first of all, but for you, Allah opens different doors. He opened that door for you. For me, He opened the door of knowledge and teaching. and that's what I'm going to do. So people are different. And one of the skills in da'wah is to recognize what would resonate with the people in front of you. That's why you find different people gravitate to different shuyukh. Not every, you can think your shaykh is the grand poobah shaykh of the shuyukh, like the great grand master wali of the awliya. You can think that. Works for you, great, mashallah. But it may not work for everybody else. It doesn't mean anything wrong about the shaykh themselves, it just means that the personality types gravitate. And that's actually one of the miracles of the beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is that he was able to relate to literally everyone. He could relate to the aristocrats, because he comes from an aristocratic clan. And when the Bedouins would come from outside of Mecca and outside of Medina, and they would want to talk to him, and they would grab him really roughly and things, he would talk to them in their language. He would speak in the idioms that they would understand, to the degree that some of the companions didn't even understand what the Prophet ﷺ would say to some people, because he was speaking their tongue, according to their norms. So you have to understand that. وهذا اعتقاد الفلاسفة سبحان الله العظيم لا يعلم هذا القدر أنه حين حصل العلم إذا لم يعمل به تكون الحجة عليه آكد كما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشد الناس عذابا عالم لا ينفعه الله بعلمه. And he said this is the opinion. People who think that their knowledge saves them are the philosophers. There is interesting research looking into who are the most ethical and the least ethical people, and they found that the least ethical people are philosophers of ethics. They have the lowest criterions, like they're in behavior and action, they don't actually do anything. They can take shortcuts, ethical shortcuts. They're the ones that cheat. They're not the best people out there when it comes to behavior, and they've done this through psychological kind of studies. Obviously, they didn't follow them in their lives, but they're just looking into like, how would you behave if you were confronted with situation X, Y, and Z? And they found that those people are actually the least people to behave ethically, the ones who know the most about ethics. And the reason for that, Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya said, "Al-ilmu fitna." Knowledge is a type of tribulation. What do you do sometimes with knowledge? You have a sense of it. You have an idea of it. Every single one of us has an idea of it. It's that time when you went into Google and you were looking for a fatwa, for something you wanted to do. And you were fatwa shopping. And when you didn't find it on Seekers Hub, you went into Islam QA. And when you didn't find Islam QA, you went to Islam Web. And when you didn't find Islam Web, you went on this. You just kept fatwa shopping until you found the one sheikh who would give you that. It's permissible. You can do whatever it is that you are already, because you already made up your mind. So Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, when he says al-ilmu fitna, if you think about what fiqh is, it's law. Who is the best lawyer? It's the one who can't find the loopholes. Okay, what is fiqh? Fiqh is a product of scholars of law who basically synthesized it and said, this is what you do, and this is why, and this is how you do it, and these are the foundations that it's rested on. Now there are different schools of fiqh, usul al-fiqh. There is the school that looks into general principles of deriving law, and then they come up with new laws. And there are ones that looked at the law as it exists, and they basically just tried to come up with the principles from it. But in both cases, these are human attempts at trying to find out what the will of the divine is. So the good faqih, the good lawyer, the most intelligent ones, they're the ones that have to actually have self-knowledge and know that, am I just trying to find a loophole so that I can do something that I already want to do? Or am I genuinely seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will in this matter? So what you have to find out for yourself is, where do I stand with this? When I learn something, I want to apply it. And when I learn something and I don't do it, he mentions here the hadith, which is narrated by Al-Bayhaqi and Al-Tabarani, that the most punished of all people is a scholar. And this doesn't mean you have to be a mujtahid. He's alim, a person of knowledge. And this knowledge could be little knowledge. It doesn't have to be a lot of knowledge. It's a person of knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not benefit them with that knowledge. So you have to take that knowledge that you get. And that's why we keep harping and mentioning this issue of learning your fiqh, learning your aqidah, learning all of these things, because you need to know what these things are about. You learn your aqidah to know who you're worshipping, and you learn your fiqh to know how you should be worshipping. And all of these things are coming from, ultimately, the beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through the chains of transmission that our scholars have delivered all the way down to us. And we live in interesting times. We live in times in which people are trying to just come up with their own ideas, with their own ways of doing things, and there's a lot of pressures. We're dealing with a lot. So it starts off with, first of all, recognizing yourself, and then second of all, community, surrounding yourself with the right people. You know, when you come to these gatherings, and make sure that your suhbah, the people that you surround yourself with, you gotta be really careful. I mean, they use it nowadays in go into YouTube and all the motivational speakers, and they talk about success and making money and all of that. One of the first things they mention to you is that who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with big thinkers, rich people? Because if you do, then you'll become a big thinker, and you'll also become rich, because like attracts like, and you'll just find opportunities that way. But if you're surrounding yourself with potheads and drunkards, party animals, I had friends from high school, 37, 38 years old right now, they're still lying when they go to the bar so that they can say, I'm 24, 25 years old, dyeing their hair and trying to still look kind of young, because they want to just get with the young ones in the bar. When I decided, years ago, alhamdulillah, Allah just kind of blessed us with like, all right, here's the path. I literally it's a personality quirk of mine maybe. I have no problem just going through my phone and just delete, just drop everybody. And then block as well. I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear from you, I don't want anything to do with you. Because if on the day of judgment your own parents and your own spouses and children are going to flee away from you, you think these people are going to come after you and try to help you out? They're not. So, mainly for the young ones, but also for everybody that might have somebody. And this doesn't go just with the obvious things, doing drugs or whatever. Even things that are much more nefarious. Gossiping. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq said, مفتاح كل شر سؤال كيف فلان. The key to every evil is to ask, how is so-and-so? Because shaitan comes to you and says, oh, be a good person. Just ask, just to check on, is everybody doing good? But nobody ever stops. Very few people know when to stop. Usually it starts off with, how is so-and-so? How is Nafisa? Oh, did you hear? Her daughter did this and that. Oh, did she? And then what happened? And then her husband did that and that. Oh, really? And then what happened? And then their son had got into this thing, and then they got into that thing, and next thing you know, you're 3 hours talking about Nafisa and her husband Hassan and their son Ahmed, and you just got into this whole discussion. These are, by the way, just names that I just came up with. If there's any likeness to anybody here, you're not intended by it. It's just to give you kind of a real, kind of palatable thing. This is how it starts. Look into all of your conversations and be careful with that. So if there's anything practical to take from today, look into the gossip that you engage in, and what benefit are you getting from it. If you're genuinely asking to make sure that someone is really doing well, to see if they need any help, then make your questions very limited and direct. And when you want to help someone, don't try to use that to find out more news about them. You get sometimes stories about people, it's like they're in need, they're in a little bit of a situation, a bind, they need some money. Khair, here it is. I don't even need to know what it's for. I don't need to know what it's about. And you know what? I don't even want it back. This is just fi sabilillah. If you're going to help. But don't use noble causes and noble questions to facilitate some nafsani, shahawani, some whimsical kind of things that we get into so that we can fulfill our gossip and our backbiting and all of these things. And that's just like a thing that most of us, and men backbite just as women do, we just do it differently. So don't think this is a women's thing. Men do it as well. Everybody does it. So, مفتاح كل شر سؤال كيف فلان. Remember that when you ask about people. And he Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu used to grab his tongue and he would say, this thing it destroyed me. And he used to walk around with a piece of, him, Hassan al-Basri, many of the companions and the scholars, there's stories that you find in the tradition. They would walk around with a pebble in their mouth, sitting on their tongue. And the reason for it is that every time they wanted to say anything, they would have to take that pebble out. And so they're giving themselves some time to think about, like, okay, I'm taking this out now. What is the purpose? Obviously, wash the pebble if you get a pebble. Don't just take any pebble from it. Wash it and then put it in your mouth. And remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's wisdom in the creation. You have a set of lips and you have a set of teeth. 2 gates to keep your tongue imprisoned. 2 checkpoints that you have to make sure before you pass anything out, that is this thing beneficial for me to speak on or not. You will find difficulty at the start, and once again, don't go around trying to point the finger at everybody. Work on yourself first. And as you work on yourself, slowly but surely you will find people around you. Look, goodness will always spread and will take over. But you have to really work on yourself as you do that. And we'll pause it. Inshallah, we'll get through this whole treatise of Imam al-Ghazali in due time. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.